The number one question I always get asked going into med school is what specialty am I thinking about? And I always answer the same way. Well, things can always change, but I'm thinking about doing something with my hands. Maybe something like surgical oncology, or anesthesiology. And this always meant true to me. Like, I always thought, yeah, that's the way I want to go. And I still want to go that way, but I know things can truly change. But a lot of people ask this question, and I think there's a preconception that you go into med school knowing what kind of field you want to go into. But I just want to go through today thinking about how to get into these different specialties and what I think that I will go into truly after going through med school. So I found this little website here that kind of outlines like a little flow chart. Let me blow this up right here. So it kind of like goes through like what kind of specialty do you want to choose, what's the problem, and then it goes through this like flow chart, and you end up with like different specialties. What do you think of kids? Love them? Pediatrics, like them asleep? Anesthesiology. And I thought this was pretty funny because I actually kind of see some truth into this. If you don't like working with kids, you shouldn't go into pediatrics. But you do like working with someone that's not an adult, so maybe pediatrics, but not really with kids while they're awake, so then anesthesiology. Maybe you actually like operating, but you don't really like operating the same thing over and over that you might do with like general surgery, so you would go into something else like neurosurgery or urology, or oncology. I think that's really cool. So I think that there is some truth with that. You got to figure out what you actually like. For me, I like working with my hands, as I said. I like the actual physical touch and connecting with a patient through that avenue. I don't see myself just rounding on patients my entire life. So I don't definitely necessarily want to be like in internal medicine or a family doctor, even though I know that they are extremely important specialties. Honestly, the field of medicine can't function without those specialties. And it's the front line of figuring out if people have diseases or not, and just to make sure that they're not coming in for a surgery when they actually don't need a surgery. But when they do need a surgery, that's where I want to come in. I want to actually like to use my hands and use my skills from research, thinking about different ways to like solve a problem and using different tools and techniques that are at my disposal in order to figure out how to effectively treat a patient physically. And so I kind of wanted to show you guys how you can get into a specialty, because you can't just say, oh, I want to go into neurosurgery and have very below par grades and get into neurosurgery. Neurosurgery is actually a very competitive specialty. So here are like a bunch of different specialties that you can go through. I'm just on the Student Doctor Network, and you can see that there's a lot of different types of internal medicine, orthopedic surgery, there's neurology, as I mentioned, nuclear medicine, which is always something that was interesting to me, and preventative medicine, that's very important. So if you're ever interested in what kind of surgery might you be interested in, go into this Student Doctor Network page and click on like medical genetics and see what their description is and see if that fits with you. So how to get into these specialties? Well, it's used to be all about USMLE Step 1. I'll kind of mention that a bit later. But the USMLE Step 1, which you usually take after your didactic years, after your second year of med school, that gives you a score. And that score kind of determines where you fall in terms of competitiveness when you want to go towards a specialty. As you can see, interestingly, over the years, the mean score of Step 1 has drastically increased. Technically, the score ranges from 1 to 300, but the mean score usually ranges between, as you can see here, 220 to about 230, 235. So definitely people are getting smarter as more access to education is available and more support system is there, and I think that's what's causing this uptrend, as well as the competitiveness. It's being much more competitive these days. But you can see that the mean score is steadily rising, but standard deviation is about the same. So I think that's pretty important. So what do I mean by the ranges of step 1? Well, here's a little chart from med school tutors. They kind of made this little graphic here, which kind of shows the matched versus non-matched scores that you can get in different specialties. So as you can see, some specialties are definitely more competitive than others. That can be determined by how high this bar graph thing is, and some are not as competitive. So something like family medicine has a really wide range, while something like dermatology has a really high range. And you can pretty much see that if you want to go into, let's say, neurological surgery right here, you need a fairly high score to be really competitiveness. You can see that people that have not matched were lower than this matched range. So I think that's really important to make sure if you are taking the point version of the USMLE Step 1 to figure out how you want to fall in, what your target is to figure out which specialty you want to go to. Now, the thing about USMLE Step 1 is that they're changing away from this score system. Now they're going into pass-fail, which there's some mixed feelings about it, and I'm kind of in the middle. I don't know exactly how I feel about it yet. But this definitely puts more stress onto Step 2 and Step 3, which are the other two exams, part of the entire USMLE package, to make sure you're a licensed physician at the end of med school. But now that USMLE Step 1 is pass-fail, they necessarily don't look at your score anymore. It's just if you passed or if you fail. And if you pass, you get to continue on to your next years of med school. And if you fail, there's a lot of support that you get from med schools usually to help you take it again and pass. But now that there is no score, there's going to be a lot more weight with how residency programs will look into your activities, like what kind of research you did or volunteering, or like things that kind of helped you, like why you want to go into this specialty. And now Step 2 and Step 3 are definitely more important because those, I believe, still have those numbers. So that's something that you need to look out for. And definitely also the recommendation you get from your med school. Because there's not necessarily ranks in med schools, but there is that word that they put into recommendations to tell residency programs how you kind of fall within the class. So taking all this into account, which specialty would I want to go into? Well, I definitely want to aim for something a bit competitive because the things that I want to do, things that I want to do with physical medicine, those are definitely more competitive. And as the years go by, I'll definitely let you guys know exactly what I want to go into. And I think a lot of this will come down to my rotation years in my 3rd and 4th year of med school. And I really want to choose rotations that kind of dive deep into both emergency medicine and surgical medicine. And with that, that's about it. Please like and subscribe. Let me know what future topics you want me to discuss next. And with that, have a nice day.